What's going on, folks? Today I'm going to be showing you how to integrate a Flutter app to AWS Cognito so you can get started doing user signups and sign-ins as quickly as possible. When you're thinking about adding subscriptions or even having uh, saving some user data onto your apps, you're going to need a secure way for your users to sign on and sign in without just allowing everything public to everyone. And AWS Cognito is an IDP tool, identity provider tool, that allows you to do that without having to build a lot of the integrations for multi-factor authentication or even third-party signups like signing in with Google or even Apple to your account. So it makes it easier to just get up and running as quickly as possible. There are other tools like Firebase, Auth that provide the same service, but I like the AWS ecosystem myself at this point in time. So we're going to get started. Start on the AWS console and search for Cognito. On that Cognito console, we'll create a new user pool. And we'll give that user pool a name. I'm using Tow Management System because that's the name of one of the apps I'm building right now. And enable email and phone number signups. And we also need to enable self-registration so that our users can sign up on their own. Once you click create, it takes you to this screen that just shows you how you could integrate it for your Swift or a Kotlin app. We're going to skip it for now because we're going to use a different method. When you get here, you'll see the user pool ID, and on the left sidebar, you'll see the app clients, which will show you the client ID for the app that we're working on today. You're going to need both of these values in order to start working with Cognito inside of your app. So inside of our Flutter app, we're going to first make sure that we have the screens we need already set up. And then we're going to install the Amplify Flutter package as well as the Amplify Auth packages. And these Amplify packages are the UI side of making sure you can integrate your app with AWS Cognito in the backend. And it just provides a few things like helper functions that can do your signups and your sign-ins and everything else without you having to rewrite that code. And so once your packages are installed, we're going to create a new asset in our assets directory. We're going to name this file Amplify Configuration JSON. And we can just copy in the default values for this file. And I'll share a link to the resources in the description. And so we want to replace the user pool ID and the client ID with those values that we have inside of our AWS console. And you'll also replace the region with the region that your user pool is going to be created in. Next, we're going to update the pub spec YAML to make sure the asset Amplify configuration is actually included with the Flutter build. When you do it this way, now whenever you try to build your web or iOS app, it'll make sure that that file is included with the full build. Next, we're going to create the Amplify initializer file, which is just going to hold a helper function that will start the Amplify code and give us any, errors or success messages based on that success. It's just a way for us to just keep the code clean. And I copied this from ChatGPT, so I'm gonna just remove those emojis, even though we could have kept them and it would have showed up in the console also. Next, we're gonna go into our main.dart file and run the configure amplify function inside of our main method here. And now let's do a bit of a sanity check just to make sure everything is running or it can run the way we expected. And so I already had the UI screens already set up. And so adding these packages should not affect the way the app builds or runs at this point. It should still build and display correctly. And we'll give it a few minutes. And this is what the onboarding flow looks like for my app. I have the email and password, the confirmation code, and then some company information. And all of these just work with the next button, and they're not actually displaying anything or doing anything complicated in the background. And once you complete the onboarding, you just go to the dashboard, which is currently blank. So now let's get back into our Flutter code and look at what we have so far. So what we were looking at is the onboarding screen, which has those 3 views, and they're currently being shown by this build current step, which shows the 3 different versions of the widget from those files here on the sidebar. Each of the functions or the widgets themselves take a parameter that uses the go to next step function shown below right here, which just updates the current step. The current step is used to show which screen or widget is going to be displayed. And so we're going to go into the onboarding controller file. And for all of my apps, I try to keep them modular. And so I have different code for showing the views or the screens themselves, and different code for actually running any type of logic that that screen may need. And so we'll see there are 3 different functions in here for signing up a user, validating their confirmation code, and below for signing them in, which is currently not implemented. But this is the code that you would use from Amplify, and it does the actual steps as long as you provide the correct input. Keep in mind the user ID could either be the email that the user signed up with or the user ID that was returned or created for that user after the first step. And now we're going to update the go to next step parameter that the widgets for the screens use. Because now we want them to, 1, run the specific controller method for that step, plus the go-to step to navigate to the next screen. So I had a little bit of trouble here because I didn't realize that the key was already included with my copy pasta. But this is why you have to keep a very close eye on the code that you write, and even a more close eye on the code that is written for you or that you're copying around. Everything else should pretty much be the same. And we'll take a look at the dashboard, which is really simple. It just says dashboard and will output whether or not someone is signed in or not by getting the current user. And it will output the ID of the currently signed in user. And if we run our app again and actually go through the onboarding flow, we'll see that we can enter our email and password. A confirmation code was sent to my email, so I'm going to go grab that. And once you enter that into the input, we can continue on. And then we'll enter some company information. And then now on our dashboard, we see that the user is logged in here with this ID. And if we go to the AWS console for our user pool, we'll see that that user with that ID is now showing up inside of our system. And so now we have a fully hooked up Flutter app to AWS Cognito. And now you can start managing user accounts securely. And this creates a foundation that you can use to actually add subscriptions or even any other types of private data into your apps. So with that, I hope this was helpful and good luck building.